Valle Trompia is a vast area that lies in the north of Brescia. It consists of 18 villages and encompasses much of the geological history of the southern Alps of Brescia. The valley is located precisely in the alpine foothills of Brescia and is crossed by the river Mella. Industrialization has, however, compromised our territory, where once there was a pristine alpine environment with characteristic flora and fauna. Now there are various industries of all kinds, for example steelmaking or galvanic industries, which could, and in the past released, huge amounts of substances polluting air, water and soil. Today, the legislation intends to protect the environment, inspired by a growing concern for human health and the environment in which we live, together with technological development. Technology has allowed the disposal and purification of wastewater and emissions. However, Valle Trompia remains a land of contrast, from beautiful landscapes to the pollution of industrial waste. Starting from the knowledge, we focused our attention to the environment surveys conducted on air and water by the qualified authorities. The survey showed some consideration and reflections. Valle Trompia is an area of high traffic with a high rate of industrialization, with the presence of large steel mill, but it has a single unit of air quality monitoring. The river Mella is one of the most polluted waterways in Europe, so that, after years of discussions, the project of purifier for the valley seems to take shape.
Heavy metals are, along with the fine particles, the most worrying and insidious pollutants that can be detected in the environment of the valley. Recently, drinking water distributed to homes of some villages of the middle and lower Valle Trompia have been in the news for the presence, within the limits of the law, of hexavalent chromium. Despite these environmental issues on our territory, beekeeping is an activity that, at the level of hobby, keeps alive the links with ancient traditions and enables the provision of honey and other hive products of local origin. Unfortunately, the laws concerning the quality of honey are related to parameters that provide taste, freshness, absence and limits of substances related to treatment on beehive, but are unclear or absent compared to some indicators of contamination of the food, just as heavy metals. Our research has led us to know Italian reality in which the bees and their products have become the subject of research to monitor the quality of the environment. In our area, the data, instead of biomonitoring results, are unavailable or covered by a strict privacy. For this reason, we are interested in bees and their main product, honey.
Thanks to the intervention of the president of the Beekeepers of Brescia, the study of documents found on the internet and in magazines, we know Apis mellifera better. Bees are insects that live in hives, completing their life cycle in accordance with their role. Their social organization, their way of life, their ability to build cells to regal hexagons are fascinating. Bees are vital to our ecosystem, as they are pollinators and therefore fertilization aims at the reproduction of plants. Besides the ecological importance, bees have a role in economic life, as their products are widely available on the market. Examples include honey, royal jelly, propolis, wax and even poison, used to treat rheumatisms. In Valle Trompia, beekeepers dedicate mainly to the production of honey. Honey is a food with high nutritional value, easily assimilated. The main components of honey are fructose, glucose, water, and other sugars and various substances including organic acid, mineral, enzymes, flavorings and others. Glucose provides energy for immediate use. Fructose is metabolized in the liver and is an energy supply. Popular culture, alternative medicine, new scientific knowledge recognize the healing and soothing property of honey. Therefore, a role of honey as food or as adjuvant agent in therapies in some specific diseases and as a tonic. Like bees, which are important because they serve as bioindicators of the quality of the territory in which they live, even honey becomes an easily available tool to monitor the environmental condition. Biomonitoring means to detect and quantify the level of contamination of the environment. The bee is an important biological indicator because every day it is engaged in an intense nectar and pollen pickup activity, moving in a vast area. During this activity, it accumulates in its body and the air pollutants such as pesticides, heavy metals, radionuclides, and benzopyrene. In particular, heavy metals differ from other contaminants because they are emitted continuously from various sources, natural and man-made, not undergoing degradation, and are continuously released. When they are taken via food, they undergo bioaccumulation. Lead, mercury, cadmium, with serious consequences on health. As an alternative to the only unit of detection of air pollution in Valle Trompia, we decided to bring the bees and their hives already positioned in each area of the valley of the biomonitoring of our territory. Survey was launched collecting honey and water in the neighborhood of the hive at the same time.
We could conduct analysis on both honey and water samples in our school laboratories. We analyzed diastase activity of honey for the evaluation of the freshness and possible heat treatments, and the determination of reducing sugars and cycles. In the case of surface water, we could also perform microbiological analysis. However, for quantitative determinations of heavy metals, after confirming the low sensitivity of the photocolorimetric method with specific kits of various heavy metals, we had to turn to external laboratories, which have instruments with higher sensitivity to detect the trace of contaminants. Examining the results, we can state that the detected concentration of heavy metals are mostly below the limits of quantification of the instruments and method used. By the way, for the purposes of the present work and the limited number of samples of honey taken into consideration, the presence inside honey samples of a detectable amount of lead encourages us to investigate further. With attention to lead exposure, it should be added that, despite the absence in our area of legal limits for lead in honey, there are clear indications of the World Health Organization on the provisional tolerable weekly intake, corresponding to 25 mg per kilogram body weight per week. This value is reduced by 10 times for children and the elderly. Since the beneficial properties of honey are so many, we think that it can be good for children and the elderly too. What we want to emphasize is that, in case of a contaminated food, there is a polluted environment in which it was produced, and if people choose not to consume this food, they are anyway exposed to environmental pollutants. Zinc and copper, although present in the various samples of honey, do not have the toxicity of other heavy metals such as chromium, cadmium and nickel. We should wonder if these values are due to contamination from the environment and, therefore, indicative of an unprotected system. A weak point of our analysis, also found with more sophisticated equipment, is that some metals are undetectable by the instruments used due to their low levels, but they are not absent in honey. The results of this investigation gave an indication of how honey may be a sensitive indicator of environmental contamination by heavy metals, which, in our valley, are not checked in air quality control. Our desire is to be able to activate a network of biomonitoring in the Valle Trompia, willing to be active in sampling the area. We are going to ask our territory authority if they can lend us the instruments for the analysis, and also give us the possibility of working with technical staff. Today, thanks to the cooperation during our training periods in laboratories outside the school, the analyses with very sophisticated instruments were made without any expense, because the laboratories paid for everything. We are grateful to them and thank them for their kindness and precious cooperation.